chat, the stream might be starting. Okay, I'm just streaming on my own, not with Adam or Flash Gamer EX. I'm just streaming on my own right now. We're just gonna be reacting to stuff. This is what I wanted to do after the last stream, but I abruptly ended it. So I'm gonna be doing a separate stream on it. So I'm just gonna watch it. This is the video that we're gonna watch currently. It's by Easyscape. It's a speed or anything. I need to get rid of this download PNG. That was for the thumbnail. I just downloaded a Google image. So Dream admits he cheated. Luckiest speedrun. Zelda speedrun destroyed. Now I like speedrunning, so we'll do it. And maybe we'll watch this power up video by Steve Gaming. I'll be reacting this video.
You guys are good. I'm the last person I would have suspected, but I was looking for me all the time. It's the perfect crime.
Yeah, tell it to the judge, Pinky.
Hey everybody, it's Easyscape. Welcome to the monthly reset, where we go over current events and news going on in the speedrunning community. Our first story today is the conclusion to the Minecraft speedrunning cheating scandal that started all the way back in December of 2020. During this time, the Minecraft speedrun moderation teams released their analysis of some of Dream's speedruns and concluded that his luck was statistically impossible based on the rate he was getting blaze rods and ender pearl drops. Oh, and if you're unsure who Dream is, he's currently one of the biggest gaming channels on YouTube, most well known for his Minecraft content and Manhunt series.
I like his Manhunt series.
Following the moderation team's investigation, Dream's initial response included him denying the allegations and claimed that the moderators had it out for him and were only exposing him to clout chase. He followed this up with his own response video, where he hired a supposed Harvard professor to debunk the moderation team's claims that the odds of achieving his luck across 6 streams was 1 in 7.5 trillion. The assessment from his professor would later be debunked by several other physicists, and the best video I could recommend anyone to watch if they want to better understand why Dream's luck was so inconceivable is this video by Stand Up Maths, which breaks the situation down perfectly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Harvard professor in that thing, I'm 90% sure that Harvard professor just cheated and, well, lied. As he said, I'm 90% sure that happened. Also, I'm probably not going to be accepting chat things because I'm full screen in a video, and I actually have to switch tabs to do that. So, man, I want to send chat messages, because I'm probably not going to respond to them. Yeah, but I understand that. Like, I'm pretty sure he did hire a smart person, but specifically paid more for that person to do the math wrong, and to make it look like they did it. So I'm pretty sure that if they actually did it, they would have gotten the probability like the same as those professionals. Like, so either what happened is Dream gave him gave the Harvard person false false numbers to start with of the probability of events happening, which would skew the answer majorly. And he also said he did add more bias to him. He added more things to make it easier for him, which would have also affected the results. And the moderators had a bunch of things, and I don't think how Dream responded is fine, but I'm willing to forgive him. He seemed like he was honest in his mistake and his recent responses. I don't think he cheated his other speedruns. He had no reason to cheat those speedruns, because, I mean, he's legitimately a good player. He had no reason to cheat those ones, and so I don't believe he did. But he probably didn't cheat those ones, but cheated the 1.16 ones because he felt like that he was skilled enough to get the time that he wanted to, and he just doesn't get the luck, because I speedrun 1.16 Minecraft, dude. I've done like 40 attempts so far, which is not that many, but I haven't found another fortress in one of them once. So it's ridiculously lucky. You have to be ridiculously lucky, and so I completely understand why he would do that, but it's still not okay. And the moderators did what they were supposed to do. They just did their job, and Dream acted inappropriately. And he did legitimately apologize. I just feel like people are taking this more seriously. And, and obviously, he did cause, the moderators to be harassed by his fans, which is not okay. And he needs to I feel like he needs to personally apologize to the speedrunning monitors on the leaderboards for Minecraft Java speedrunning, for that. But otherwise, the mods probably are fine. The mods probably get harassed for doing other things too, but obviously they got really harassed here, and I don't think that's okay. But I'm sure that they would gladly forgive Dream and probably not accept him back into the community. He already left the Java speedrunning Discord, like he's no longer on that, so I don't think he's coming back to making speedrunning videos, but yeah, it's fine. But I want to see the luckiest Zelda speedrun destroyed. Like, what I believe is going to happen for this one is he's going to, since he admits that he cheated and got ridiculous luck, there is a Wind Waker speedrun. The Wind Waker world record has a lot of luck in it, the 100% one. I think it's by Linkus 7. I think that, like, he's the only Wind Waker speedrun I really know, but I'm pretty sure that it was by Linkus 7. That was the person that got the luckiest run for that game, and it's a great run, but I don't think he cheated. But I'm pretty sure what they're going to say is Dream got this luck, he got this luck, that must mean he cheated, right? Like,
would later amend his work explaining that there were mistakes in his original assessment and came to the conclusion that it is improbable that Dream didn't cheat. Dream would later remove his response video with no further mention on the topic, which left many like myself very confused.
I watched the
Then on May 30th,
video.
Dream posted a pastebin to Twitter explaining that he actually did cheat. I'll be skimming this document, but I'll have the pastebin linked in the description if anyone would like to look it over themselves. The first half of the document is Dream explaining most of what I've already discussed, which is that he said bad things about the mod team because he felt that they weren't being impartial towards him, and that the numbers that his professor came up with ended up being off. Afterwards, he explains, "At this point I was lost, and I was fairly confused by the whole thing, wondering what the other options were and exploring the possibilities. As much as I was confident that I didn't cheat, I had never explored the option that I possibly did." He claims that he was unknowingly using a mod to boost his drop rates, which is the same mod that him and his friends use in their challenge videos for convenience. He states that he never looked into this possibility of this being the case because, in quote, "I had plenty of valid reasons to believe that they weren't impartial, and had the mod team and I been completely friendly from the beginning, I believe it never would have gone to the point that it did." So the question on everyone's mind is, did Dream actually cheat on accident, and was this an honest mistake, or was he knowingly using this mod the entire time and is now trying to cover it up? There are some positive replies on this thread from individuals from the Minecraft community, like Tommy Innit and Tubbo, but outside of the—
Of course, of fucking course it's Tommy and Tubbo, dude. You already know that it's Tommy and Tubbo who were saying that stuff, because, like, obviously, they're personal friends. Blames popularity, blames moderators, blames modders, blames Harvard physicists, takes no responsibility, doesn't apologize to anyone he's caused grief to, makes a sob story to make people feel sorry for him. Yep, it's a YouTuber apology, alright. True! It's true, dude. I mean, but I'm pretty sure that most people don't blame, like, the stereotype is not blame Harvard physicists, blame modders and moderators. It's mostly just, minus those three, true. Like, oh my goodness. But still, from that apology, I don't think that's, he's still, like, doing the normal cheating thing of not accepting responsibility for his actions, and just admitting that he cheated, because I know he cheated on purpose. There's no doubt that he did not do that. And if he has a mod that he's doing with his friends and stuff like that, whatever. But it was also on 3 streams. 3 streams, dude. 3. And also, you gave them your mod folder. If it was a mod that you created to do that, then the mod would have been on your mod folder. Maybe you purposely removed it. Which is, it's kind of stupid.
This space in the wider speedrun and livestream communities, the response was pretty negative. But as always, I'm curious about all of your takes regarding this matter, and at the very least, I'm glad this drama is officially over.
VoiceMod is the #1 real-time voice changer for gamers and content creators.
I don't care. Wait, hold up. I don't care. I don't care about voice mod.
Okay, hey guys, it's Easy Escape from the future. Looks like we aren't actually done. As of a couple hours ago, Dream has posted another apology part 2, baby. Here we go. So in this document, he apologizes to the speedrun moderators, and then he apologizes directly to Geosquare. And we check over on Geosquare's Twitter. Says Dream and I are cool again. Glad we're seeing some closure today, with a crying smiley face.
Crying smiley
He then
face.
apologizes to the speedrunner Curryway for accusing him of cheating. He basically says that he shouldn't have said anything in his Twitch chat and should have left it up to the mods. He then apologizes for creating one of the biggest dramas in Minecraft speedrunning. Lastly, he states that he took down all of his submitted runs from speedrun.com and that he's looking to invest into the Minecraft speedrunning community with $50,000 and I think about $20,000 that he invested into Break the Record Live. The only place the discussion's really taken place on this topic is over on our speedrun, so I'm going to scroll through. You guys can read through some of the comments that people are saying. But yeah, that's pretty much all I want to talk about in this subject. I'm done. Drama's over, okay? No more paste bins, no more Google documents, no more twit-longers. We're done with it. All right? We're done.
Okay,
Absolutely
cool.
done.
Now we
Moving
transition
on.
into the Wind Waker part of the
Almost
video.
exactly 2 years ago, I made a video called The Luckiest Zelda Speedrun Ever, and to my surprise, this video ended up being a huge success, amassing over 4.6 million views. This video
Isn't that
covered
like
an
a 7?
unbelievable world record that was
Yeah,
set
it's
in the
like a
Legend of
7.
Zelda Wind Waker HD 100% category, and to
Oh,
this
no, he
day still
reaches
contains
Persona
the best
5
luck anyone has
sub
ever
goal.
gotten in this category. But I have to come clean about something.
Subs.
This thumbnail is clickbait. The odds of getting to run with this good of luck actually ended up being closer to 0.25%, not 1%. This was due to the combined luck of the Sploosh Kaboom minigame, finding the correct items in order at the auction house, and getting good
I'm
helm rocking
streaming
bosses.
and reacting to a video about.
Wait, is that Dream?
No, that's not Dream. That's Linkus 7.
Okay, well I don't even know who that is.
That's a Wind Waker speedrun. This video has like 2 parts to it. So
Okay.
I'm streaming and talking about different stuff on it.
But patterns. As I was expecting, there were a ton of comments saying this run
That's
wasn't
my
even that
sister.
lucky, even at 2.5%, comparing that luck to encountering a shiny Pokemon. And while encountering a shiny Pokemon may technically be rare, imagine if each shiny Pokemon took you 4 hours to encounter, since this is how long a top runner would have to play before all RNG rules have taken place. So with this run having near perfect luck and only a few minutes of execution errors, the final time ended up being 5 hours, 34 minutes, and 53 seconds. And the new world record as of May 3rd, 2021 is 4 hours, 59 minutes, and 20 seconds by Mr. Alberto 23, which is over 35 minutes faster. So what happened? The first big trick discovered was a way to skip the Puppet Ganon fight, which is the second to last boss fight in the game. This is performed by precisely shooting a fire arrow underneath a platform to hit a morph, which ideally will bounce and burn the top off a warp pot so that it can be used without even completing the boss fight. The issue for speedrunners is the distance that morphs bounce is luck dependent, and there's only a 1 in 3 chance that one bounces the correct distance to hit the pot, which only added more RNG to the list of things that could save or lose time. Fortunately for speedrunners, some huge discoveries were made that would eliminate several of these luck elements, the first being a way to calculate the patterns in Sploosh Kaboom, which is this game's version of Battleship. This is made possible because when booting up Wind Waker HD, the seed that calculates RNG is always the same. But since it's constantly cycling through different values depending on what the player is doing in game, it is impossible to figure out Sploosh Kaboom patterns from the start of the game or anything like that, since it's way too precise. But what this does mean is that speedrunners can understand the order in which the boards they get will appear. So they made a tool that would allow them to enter their results from a single failed board, and in return the tool will estimate the likelihood of certain tiles being hits based on the overlap of the upcoming boards. If they click a tile and it ends up being a miss, the tool removes all boards that have hits on that tile and then finds the most likely hit until it figures out the exact board. This doesn't exactly save time over doing the boards normally, but it does make the section a lot more consistent, and speedrunners are way less likely to reset. The next big glitch discovery was pause storage. This is performed by pressing the options menu the same time Link enters the loading zone while playing on a Wii U Pro controller, and the result is having the pause menu up while still being able to play in game. The main benefit of this is that speedrunners are now able to access.
This is just pretty interesting. I like speedrunning videos. I haven't talked in a while. I'm gonna see if there's anybody in chat. But so basically, I really like Wind Waker. Wind Waker's a fun game. I didn't get to play all the way through it though. And the reason why I didn't get to play all the way through it is because I had the HD version, which is the one that they're running, and so basically what happened is I got the game. I played up until like almost getting to Dragon Roost Cavern, and then I ended up breaking, like, at one point I ended up breaking my Wii U gamepad. It's touchscreen. And the thing about this game is that I'm 90% sure that you can't play the game without using, like, open the menus without using the Wii U touchpad, which is kind of a dumb feature. They shouldn't have added that feature, but it makes it so I can't play the game. But I mean, not everything has to revolve around me, but still, it's just kind of an annoying feature.
The save and quit options during any in-game event. Some examples where this is beneficial is being able to save and quit during cutscenes. When the game is reloaded, the cutscene flag will now be set, skipping the cutscene entirely.
That's good.
The next benefit is being able to buy items for free in the auction house, nearly removing the luck element altogether. By activating pause storage at Beetle's shop, speedrunners are able to blindly move Link to the auction house. Since they can't see anything, they just buy whatever item is being sold at max price, which completely skips the bidding process. Then they save and quit the game at the same time they press A to receive the item, which...
Is there a Beetle ship at Windfall? I don't remember there being Beetle ship at Windfall, so that's kind of confusing, but like...
Which allows them to keep the item before any rupees are removed, which means the auction house is now possible to be completed in only one segment earlier on. The only RNG involved in this section is getting a Joy Pendant, which speedrunners hope to avoid, but overall, this section is much more consistent than before. This is only a brief overview of some of the new strats and developments, and there are many more which I won't be covering, but if you're looking to learn more after watching this video, I would recommend checking out this video made by Linkus, which explains everything in more detail.
Working with videos
it's like
can
a
be
Summoning Salt video.
frustrating. Luckily, UniConvert.
They made a new Summoning Salt video. I already watched it.
On the 26th of April, English Ben was doing a trilogy speedrun of
Wait,
GTA
this is just
3.
a speedrunning... This is just a speedrunning news video. Let's watch this. How much time have I been streaming for? 16 minutes. Let's watch the quest for world record perfect. Should we watch one of these? Chat. Should we watch a Summoning Salt video? Or should we watch Technoblade or Mousebag? Mousebag's pretty good. He's just doing a lore up all night. Let's watch Sneed. Well, not
the
Sneed.
1.3 update really shaked up Mario's diet in Super Mario Maker. While our favorite plumber previously was limited to devouring fire flowers, mushrooms and the occasional feather, his options exploded with 1.3. But not only Mario's diet got more balanced, but we also got tons of new and interesting power-up options to toy around with. But all those
Hold
new
up, no, we gotta watch one of his videos about him complaining. It's really funny.
So let me start this little video by stating that I actually never planned to make this little video. So here's the thing.
He makes a bunch of videos now, but I'm complaining about
I was
stuff.
happily
It's really
scripting a
funny.
video about the worst power-up in Super Mario Maker. We are talking a bit about the 1.3 power-ups and what they add to the game. We chat a bit about the eternal question
let's see
whether
his-
the
let's see his
acorn
script
suit
here.
or
Let's
the
see his
cave
early
feather
script.
are the better designed power-up. We hand out fuzzies like candy, as we should. I was happily scripting a video about the worst
Fuzzy, stupid... Wait, Hammer Suit. Fuzzy, fuzzy, stupid because I dislike him.
power-up in Super Mario Maker. We are talking a bit about the 1.3 power-ups
About the Hammer Suit.
and what
yeah.
they add to the game. We chat a bit about the eternal question
He means
whether
the builder
acorn
suit.
or the cave feather are the better designed power-up. We hand out fuzzies like candy, as we should. And then I start to script the cat suit power-up part. And then I stop to script the cat suit power-up part and realize that almost half of the runtime of the video is now about the cat suit. So usually I'm a huge fan of putting too many ideas into a single video instead of too little, but you know, boundaries. Basically, this thing needs to be its own thing. So this video are basically my thoughts on the cat power-up and its implementation in Super Mario Maker 2. Because the cat power-up, or more specifically, how it is implemented in Super Mario Maker 2, is the perfect metaphor for everything that is wrong with the way Nintendo handles community topics and glitches in their games.
See, like, he just takes the most arbitrary Oh no. He just takes the most arbitrary topics and turns them into like absolute genius, dude. It's really fun.
That's going to be a fun one. So are you ready?
Dun, dun,
Let's do
dun,
it.
dun. There's an advertisement. I'm using my left hand.
Sorry guys, I can't
I'm
come
not
to lunch.
left-handed.
Yes. So thorough investigation of the catsuit and its symbolic importance for the much bigger problem of Nintendo's messed up community and glitch management starts at the most logical point possible. Let's talk about the Fire Flower. All 2D Mario games since the original Super Mario Bros. Implemented the Fire Flower in a really interesting way. Whenever Mario eats one of those tasty flowers, he's able to shoot fireballs. But the button that spawns the fireballs is also the button that is used for running. This leaves us with a bit of an awkward situation. Whenever we are wearing a fire flower and want to run, then we have to throw a fireball to start running. Even if we only want to run, but don't want to murder one of Bowser's many loyal minions. So the reason why they implemented the fire flower like this in the original Super Mario Bros. Is
Because they
probably
only had
just
two
because
buttons.
well, the original NES controller only has 2 buttons, but they decided to never change this design, even when they had way more buttons at their disposal. As a matter of fact, most Mario power-ups
It's more
work like the
simple.
Fire Flower. The Tanuki suit attack is mapped to the running button in every game where it appears. The Boomerang suit boomerang is mapped to the running button, the Acorn suit updrift and the Propeller suit twirl are mapped to the twirl button. Even Yoshi's tongue is mapped to the running button. So why did Nintendo never use one of the many unused buttons in the Mario games to give us more control over when to use the power-ups? So there are probably many reasons, but one is, at least in what is objectively my opinion, that Nintendo far more valued simplicity and that using the power-ups stays intuitive over perfect control. If the Tanuki Leaf attacks as soon as Mario runs, then no tutorial is needed. The first time we try to run after we get a Tanuki Leaf is the second we learn that we are now able to execute a devastating
don't know how to
tailspin.
run?
Mario's moveset stays completely the same, but it adds something on top of Mario's normal moveset. It's simple and elegant and intuitive, and Nintendo seemed to really like this idea of designing power-ups with as little button presses as possible, because even the hammer attack in Mario Maker 2, when wearing the builder outfit, works like this, and that
Except
one
for
is
when
really
you-
debatable in my opinion.
Except
Anyway,
for when
so
you,
when it was time
try to
to
spawn
design the
bombs.
catsuit for 3D World, they
The
designed it
run
like
along
they
the box
always
is kind
have.
of bad.
Here's how the catsuit works. If we press B, our cute Mario cat scratches. If we press B while in air, we scratch, and then we start our glorious cat super dive attack thingy. So basically all the cat specific controls are on the B button. It's like the Fire Flower and like the cape attack and like the cannon mask. It's classic Mario power-up design. It's simple, it's intuitive, you know, it's fine. But for whatever reason, the cat suit is completely different in Super Mario Maker 2. Here B always scratches, but using the glorious cat super dive attack thingy now doesn't happen if we press B. Instead, it is now tied to the shoulder buttons. To make things even weirder, cancelling the cat attack doesn't work like previously anymore. In 3D World, the cat attack ends as soon as we let go of the B button. It's super simple. Pressing B starts the cat attack, letting go
In Mario
of
Maker
B
2 you have to
stops
press it twice.
In
It's really
Mario
annoying.
Maker, pressing the shoulder button puts Mario into a glorious cat dive attack state that we can only leave by ground pounding or by pressing the button again.
I hate
Pressing the
that
button
mechanic.
again always
Also-
feels too
hold
slow.
up.
It takes this time by cat dive attack
Look,
state that
Mario
we
clips
can
into the floor,
only
watch
leave
this.
by ground pounding or by pressing the button.
Mario? Mario? Mario, your face is in the snow. Get out. Get out.
Again. Pressing the button again always feels too slow. It takes this tiny bit too long to end the attack after the press for this to feel good. Also, Mario kind
does,
of
and he
weirdly decelerates
loses
when we hit the
speed.
button. He just loses all his speed immediately. Honestly, I hate this. I played tons of 3D World, and whenever I get the cat suit in a Mario Maker stage, the following course of events happen in quick
There's
succession.
another advertise. How many? It doesn't.
Hey, wanna play some video games?
I saw this. I saw this ad like 2
I
years
know
ago.
I do. I haven't seen the sun in years.
League of Legends, you are using old advertisements.
First, I tried to do a glorious cat super dive thingy in the air, which ends with Mario just scratching. Next, I think something along the lines of, oh, the dive is on the shoulder buttons in Mario Maker. Silly me, I hate this. So next, I press the shoulder button, but I haven't remembered that cancelling the dive requires an additional press in this game. I murder Mario. I remember how to cancel a dive in this game. So all of this would be bad enough, but there is this one thing that makes matters even worse. far more worse, and it is the missing link between the catsuit and Nintendo's community management. Because I strongly suspect that the reason why the catsuit is implemented in this silly way is for the dumbest reason ever.
It's because of the glitch management. You already know that. Yeah, everything wrong with Nintendo's glitch policy and the catsuit. You know the Nintendo's glitch policy? It used to be we can't scrap out glitches, so we just have to keep them in. Or make a brand new ship of the game. Because there was no online cloud updating thing. Now that there is, they post bug fixes all the time. Why? Oh, because everything that's not intended is bad according to Nintendo. Like, for example, Mario 3D World had the cat dive acceleration, which is where, when you cat dive and you untouch the button right before you're going to hit the floor, you keep your momentum, and then if you jump off the floor, really quickly, you keep that speed, and then your speed keeps going. But they couldn't patch it out of this game, but because they used the exact same engine, basically, except they just turned it into 2D for Mario Maker, they made the controls so clunky to patch it out. It's really
Let's pull
annoying.
out our tinfoil hats, shall we? And let's quickly talk about a tiny conspiracy theory of mine.
It's not
So
a
there's this thing
conspiracy
called
theory.
cat momentum cancelling in 3D
Yeah.
World. Basically, it is possible to build up a lot of speed and momentum by quickly cancelling a cat dive before landing, and then by immediately starting a new one. That's one of the more interesting little tricks in the game, and mastering this little skill is incredibly rewarding. It is also one of the core components of 3D World speedruns. Anyway, so basically the catsuit allows us to gain tons of momentum by quickly cancelling the cat dive. I very strongly suspect that Nintendo never intended for this harmless trick, which means it is a glitch in their eyes. Alright, and now it is time to port the catsuit from
And they
3D
patch
World
out any
over
glitch,
to
no
Mario
matter if they're
Maker,
innocent
and the devs
or
are
not.
worried on how to prevent this glitch from happening. So one way would be to embrace it, since it is honestly one of the coolest aspects of the catsuit and one of the most interesting aspects of the entire movement of Mario 3D World. That's not the route they decided to take Surprise Pikachu.jpg. Instead, they decided to rework the cat dive. Instead of
Something
keeping the
about the JPEG
momentum
image.
when a move is cancelled, Mario now suddenly slows down, which has the positive effect of preventing the cat momentum trick from happening, but the negative effect of feeling horrible. So I'm pretty sure that the reason why cancelling the dive feels so much worse in Mario Maker in comparison to 3D World is because they
Tomorrow they
just
changed
take
the
all
button
of
mapping
Mario's
now.
momentum in order to fix the cat momentum
They
cancelling
changed the
trick. So
momentum.
this next part is
It's
a bit
really bad
tinfoily,
thing.
but even if you don't agree, it shouldn't matter for the point that I'm trying to make. So basically I believe... No. I'm absolutely convinced that the nerf to Mario's momentum led to a chain reaction of consequences, which are the reason
This
why
is
the
the
catsuit is
conspiracy theory
implemented
part.
in such a silly way. Here's what I believe. No. Here's what definitely happened behind closed doors. Since the feeling of stopping the glorious cat super dive attack is now horrible, they decide that it is better if the move now puts Mario into permanent cat dive state that only ends if we press a button. This disencourages cancelling the move. But if we implement the move in this way, then we run into a new problem. And this is why I so strongly suspect that this is what happened. Because if the move is no longer activated automatically by holding B and cancelled by letting go of it, but instead starts with a button press and ends with a new one, then we can't have it on the attack button anymore. Because every attack would send Mario into a cat dive and he would only stop once we press B again. So a single attack would require 2 B presses and it would send Mario downwards for a while, even though we never intended for Mario to dive downwards. So how do we solve this? Well, by
You
breaking
hit the
25 years of Mario power-up design tradition and by putting it onto another button. Hooray! We solved an issue that was never an issue to begin with by making a power-up more clumsy to control and by screwing over anyone who has a bit of 3D World muscle memory. Another job well done. Next, let's fix the icicles. Or at least that's how I believe it went down. That's obviously just a bit of a
So the thing that they did with the icicles in the game is icicles in the game there's such thing as global ground, which is ground that doesn't unload objects. And so icicles at the start of the game were global ground, and they were global ground that counted to the block limit. And so when you place icicles, since they counted to the enemy limit, I think either the enemy limit or they counted the gizmos limit, you could have a ton of them. What they count to? I can't remember, but they counted to a limit that the other global ground didn't count to, meaning that you can have way more global ground. So it's really important. But they patched it out because in their eyes it was a glitch. So
tinfoil theory
really
of
annoying.
mine, the reason why they decided to implement the catsuit in
I'm
this
checking
dumb
how
way
much
could be for any
time
other
I
silly
stayed for.
reason. But what we do know with absolute certainty is that cat momentum cancelling is missing in Mario Maker 2, which means that Nintendo fixed something that wasn't broken. That's something Nintendo does way too often, especially with Mario Maker. Their biggest sin being the icicle incident. So for anyone who isn't familiar with the icicle incident, here's a super quick summary. Basically, there is this thing called global ground in Super Mario Maker. It's basically ground that never deloads. The interesting thing is that not only the ground never deloads, but also everything that we place on top of it never despawns. So we had global ground in Mario Maker 1, and it was one of the most important things for building huge and crazy contraptions like
See how cool that
calculators
is?
or whatever. But in Mario Maker 1, we were always limited because all global ground options were part of the normal entity limit, meaning that we were only able to place down 100 of those. And then Mario Maker 2 got released, and would you believe it? Everything that is on top of icicles is suddenly global ground. But icicles aren't part of the normal 100 items entity limit, which meant that we were able to put down global ground whenever and wherever we needed it, and that we didn't have to worry about it interfering with the normal entity limit. This made tons of crazy shenanigans possible, things that were unthinkable previously, and it was also a really cool and welcoming sign that Nintendo was aware that there were cool niche tricks in Mario Maker 1, and that they were willing to find nice little solutions to make the life of people easier that try to push Mario Maker to its limits. And then patch 1.2 hit, and they removed the global ground property of icicles without any warning or any explanation, alongside with tons of other things. Some were small glitches, some were cool queso tricks, some were honestly things that I thought were features and completely harmless, and suddenly tons of things weren't possible anymore in the game. I remember tinkering with a cool contraption one day, going to bed, and the next morning the whole concept was suddenly just no longer possible in Mario Maker. Just as a note, we're not talking about game-breaking bugs like the black hole glitch here. We're talking about stuff where no one even knew that this was unintended before they removed it. There are dozens of such examples really over the history of Mario Maker. But
like there was some contraptions that I really wanted to try from Steve Gaming's videos that used icicles as global ground. I never got to ever try those because patch 1.2 came out. And then
it is not only Mario Maker. They patched out tons of interesting little quirks and glitches out of many of their games. Let's take Odyssey as an example. They went out of their way and used development resources to patch out the wet nut jump. The nut jump is a small trick that allows us to fly by throwing and catching wet nuts. And yes, this only works with wet nuts, not with dry nuts. This little and funny quirk is useful for
that's just such a weird glitch, and they decided to spend actual money going back to the game to patch out something that doesn't matter. I mean, and then they don't tell anybody about it. When people want that back, they don't bring it back.
Challenge runs and for speedrunning, and learning how to nut jump is actually really fun in itself. It's a fun part of the game, and it doesn't break anything for anyone by any means. So why patch this? It's not even some kind of evil capitalistic dark corporation move. It actually cost them money to make their game this tiny bit worse. The only reason they patched this is because it wasn't an intended way to interact with the game to begin with.
Yeah, which is like a stupid,
There's a big war going on somewhere in the universe.
I don't care.
That always.
Steve, why'd you load your video with ads?
There is this famous statement that Hidetaka Miyazaki, the director of most of the Souls games, allegedly said. I can't find proof that he ever said this for the life of mine, but
I
if he
think I
never
commented
said it,
on this video. Hold up, let's see. Yeah, Nintendo is like those people. Is like I watch a YouTuber called Point Crow, and a lot of people are saying are telling him that he has to play the game in a normal way, and then he's just saying, well, this is how I like to have fun playing the game. I want to have fun, so don't.
That it's at least nicely made up. So the legend is that he was talking about the development of Demon Souls. Also, yes, I am aware that this footage isn't from Demon's Souls, but from the Dark Souls remaster. The thing is, my cellar got flooded last week during a storm, and my PS3 died a slow and presumably painful death by drowning during this horrible incident, so I can't record any Demon's Souls footage currently. Wow, what a great way to start to talk about the main point of this silly little cat power-up video. Also shout out to Matthew Mathos' amazing Demon's Souls commentary video, by the way, since it is the place where I first learned about the interview that may or may not exist. If someone knows where to find this lost interview, please leave me a comment. Anyway, so in the interview, which I can't find, Miyazaki said about the game, which you currently don't see, something along those lines.
Okay, I thought that Demon's Souls on the PS5 was the first in the series for Demon's Souls. Bruh.
First a bit of context. There is a really funny unintended shortcut in Shrine of Storms, one of the game's levels. Basically, it is possible to roll over a ledge if we previously undress our heroic undead hero down to his undies. Rolling over this ledge skips most of the stage and brings us almost directly in front of the boss.
Hold up, I need to go do something for a second. I'll come back. Okay, yeah, I have like a stinking.
So here's where this gets interesting. Basically, Miyazaki stated that this shortcut would have gotten patched out if they were to find it during development. But now that the game is released, he wouldn't patch it anymore, since it is something that the players found, that adds to the game, and that makes the stage just this tiny bit more interesting. And this is the thing that Nintendo just never gets. Whenever the community finds a glitch, or an exploit, or a shortcut, or an amazing Mario Maker mechanic, then Nintendo never asks themselves, does this add to the game? They never ask, is the game more interesting because of this? Instead of asking, is this interesting, they always ask, is this intended? But that is just a completely wrong question to ask, because some of the coolest and most interesting things in Nintendo games were never intended. The Zero Star Run in Mario 64, the out-of-order shiny collection madness that is Super Mario Sunshine, Mario Bros. Minus World, the wrong warps in the Ocarina of Time speedrun, or, to come back to our topic, the cat momentum cancelling in 3D World. Those are all things that really add to the game. It's those small myths that we chat about online, that whole community is built around. Like, I was seriously amazed when the Wind Waker community finally found out how to surpass that stupid barrier in Hyrule. I will probably never do this myself, but nonetheless it kind of adds to Wind Waker as a whole. The same way Minecraft is a better game when I play it because of all the crazy things that other people build in the game, which I will never build. Mario Maker 1 is a better game for the fact that it is possible to build a Rubik's Cube in it. Is this level enjoyable? Honestly no, but the fact that it is possible makes Mario Maker 1 just so much cooler and this tiny bit more interesting in my opinion. The things that communities add to a game just kind of become part of it. Mario 64 is such a legendary game today because of all the insane work and discoveries of its community, not only because Nintendo made a really good game. Here is why this kind of worries me. Back in the good old days, Nintendo wasn't able to patch out glitches which the community found. Whatever the state of the game was when it released was the state of the game for eternity. but nowadays they go out of their way to get rid of unintended mechanics long after release, and their games lose some of their magic and longevity because of it, at least in my opinion. Think about the following. It is possible to reach the top of Peach's castle in Mario 64 before even collecting a single star. That's a neat little bit of Mario 64 trivia. It's kind of cool, it's one of those small things that add to the game. You can go now into your cellar, take out your drowned Nintendo 64 with Mario, throw them away, buy a new Nintendo 64 with Mario, start the game and do it yourself. It's difficult, but it is possible on your own Mario 64 copy. Now think about this. It is possible to glitch through a lot of walls and to fly out of bounds in Super Mario Odyssey.
I'll be right back again. Sorry. I'm back now.
Using Glide On. That is, as long as you have a physical 1.0 copy of Super...
Like, all of his points in this video, I'm pretty sure are just gonna be like, the same stuff, basically. But yeah, this guy's interesting. He does a ton of, cool stuff. Hold up, we're gonna... Look at this, this video is a rant, this video is a rant, this video is a rant, this video is also a rant, this video is a rant, this video is a rant, this video is a rant. I don't think that's a rant. This is the rant. This is also a rant. A ton of these are rants. Let's watch... Let's watch this one.
The top man enemies
This will be the last video I watch this.
in Super Mario Galaxy are a brilliantly designed enemy and a perfect showcase for what makes Galaxy such
I
a
remember this
fascinating...
video. Hold up, I'm gonna, I think I watch most of these videos. I don't want this one.
So recently played through Paper Mario and the Origami King and I really enjoyed it. The game is just great. The soundtrack is nothing short of brilliant. There are many different and crazy set pieces that our two-dimensional plumber has to survive. The humor and the writing are top-notch, definitely on par with the first two games. The whole game is massive, yet it never becomes repetitive. It's just a truly well-made game. Yet there was this one question that I just wasn't able to get out of my head while playing the game. Why? Why does this game have a weird puzzle Sudoku style timer based combat system with no form of progression? Why do the weapons in this game break if we use them too often? Why does the game give us buddies that waddle around and talk to us but doesn't utilize them during gameplay? Basically, why does Nintendo refuse to reintroduce all those features that fans of the first games very vocally want to see return? So that's not a rhetorical question for once, like literally. Why? This question honestly started to kind of haunt me. I ended up spending way too much time thinking about why Nintendo refuses to produce the Paper Mario game that so many people want to see. And I believe I found the answer, or at least I have a theory. So today we're going to explore this question. We're going to take a look at a couple of Nintendo franchises and how they evolved. We'll discuss a couple of brilliant design decisions that Nintendo recently made, as well as chatter about a couple of incredibly dumb ones. We will find out how all of this is connected and why it is the reason for many of Nintendo's more recent design disasters. But most importantly of all, we're going to find out why the classic Paper Mario format had to die. So you ready? Let's do this. Alrighty, right, so this video is basically a huge search for the answer to the question why the Wiggler Nintendo refuses to take the Paper Mario series back to its roots. But if we really want our journey for sense and meaning to succeed, we probably should establish what exactly the roots of the series are in the first place and what it is exactly that Nintendo refuses to go back to. So let's take a look at how the Paper Mario formula looked like in the first two games. So in the first two games, Mario has several partners that follow.
Maybe Nintendo made people who made Mario and Luigi, the Mario and Luigi series, maybe they made them make bad games at near the end so that they would go bankrupt, so that they would stop making the RPG so they can keep their philosophy. That's 2 million IQ.
Him around on his fantastic journey. Those partners often have small narrative arcs tied to them, and each act of the game is focused on one of the partners. But those partners not only help structure the story, but they also enhance the gameplay. Each one of them adds a new and unique ability that our Mario, made out of paper, is able to use as soon as the partner got unlocked. Abilities like kicking a shell to trigger faraway stuff, picking up Mario to fly over spikes, or my absolute personal all-time favorite, illuminating areas. Those abilities allow us to overcome previously inaccessible areas, to solve previously unsolvable puzzles, to find goodies, and so on. It's probably best to think about those abilities like the items that Zelda usually finds in one of the dungeons in the game series named after him. But I'm getting ahead.
I want them to bring back old Zelda. Old Zelda's awesome. But they won't because
of myself. Next there's the combat system. Combat in the first two Paper Mario games works turn-based. We always battle together with Mario and one of our partners against different types of enemies. After winning a battle, we are rewarded with experience points, which we can use to level Mario up. Finally, there are the badges in the game. The badge system in the first two Paper Mario games is really interesting and really brilliant. The badges are basically a skill tree that got cut down into its different branches and hidden throughout the world. They are items that we're able to find that grant Mario bonus if he decides to equip them. Some are a minor passive buff, like raising Mario's defense, while others are much more creative and much more impactful, like badges that unlock new attacks for combat. Think of it like the brilliant charm system in Hollow Knight. Finally, over the course of the game, we find upgrades to Mario's core ability set. It could be a new hammer upgrade that allows us to demolish even bigger blocks, a jump boot upgrade that allows us to jump towards higher places, or something more simple like paper planification. Hooray! That's the gameplay of the first two Paper Mario games in a nutshell. We arrive in a new place filled with many different things to explore, puzzles to solve, and secrets to uncover. We experience a small story there, befriend a new partner that helps us overcome challenges, or allows us to grab a badge in a previously unreachable area before we fight against dangerous foes, grow stronger, and maybe even learn a new ability that allows us to explore previously unreachable places. It's obviously a bit simplified, but basically that's the gameplay of the first two Paper Mario games. Games that were highly critically acclaimed, and games that hundreds of thousands of people fell in love with. And nothing of the gameplay we just took a look at is present in the modern Paper Mario games anymore. In Origami King, there are no partners anymore. There are sometimes companions that follow us around for a chapter or two, but disappear afterwards and aren't really of any use during combat. Combat in Origami King isn't the beloved crazy turn-based combat of the original games anymore, but instead a turn-based Sudoku-like puzzle minigame. Mario doesn't learn any new abilities over the course of the adventure anymore. Mario's skill set at the beginning of the game is his skill set at the end of it. There is much less focus on exploration. There are barely any things of value hidden throughout the world, like the brilliant badges, but instead we find folded toads or brittle weapons, which can only be used a couple of times before the break. There are no level ups, there are no new permanent items, there are no cool partner abilities, there is nothing. Origami King ended up being a really good game, at least in my opinion, but it managed to do so despite many flaws. The combat isn't really engaging, the lack of progression makes exploring and fighting feel really pointless. The fact that a bunch of partners that follow us throughout the game have no impact on combat or on normal gameplay anymore just makes it harder to care about them, and the brittle weapons just aren't a real replacement for the awesome badge system. It really speaks to the quality of the writing and the different scenarios in Origami King that the game ended up being so great, because the core gameplay is, at least in my humble opinion, far less enjoyable than what we had in the original Paper Mario 20 years ago. Just to be super clear here, this video isn't about Origami King thing bad. The thing is more like there's thing bad and otherwise thing good. So let's identify thing bad so that thing bad isn't present in thing good next time, and thing good might actually become thing great. So with all of this fluff established, it's time to press the pause button here. and to take a detour through various other Nintendo franchises and weird decisions they made that at first glance are all kind of unrelated. But I promise everything is going to make sense once we come back here in a bit. Hopefully. I unironically don't know how many moons there are in total in Super Mario Odyssey without looking it up. I think it was 880 when the game came out, but I believe they added a bunch of hint art moons with a patch, and then there are also the moons that can be bought several times that make it possible to get the moon counter up to 999. Anyways, I always thought that this is such a weird design choice. Just think about this for a second. They designed all those worlds and all those secrets, all the challenge rooms, the wonderful 2D sections and whatnot, and then they decided to have a really weird, unintuitive number of total moons. Even stranger, they don't really push us towards collecting them all. The final number of moons the game pushes us towards is 500 for unlocking the darkest side of the moon, and then the game just goes on for how long we feel like playing it. Once we found the 500th moon, the game no longer really rewards us for collecting more moons. It doesn't even really acknowledge that we're getting closer towards having found all of them. You know, Super Mario Galaxy, for example, has this huge counter that slowly counts down how many stars we're missing until we found 120. And Super Mario Odyssey does the same thing, until we reach the dark side of the moon. But then the game just doesn't reward us for picking up any of the missing 380 base moons anymore. I've always found that to be a really baffling design decision, and it took me a while to come up with a tinfoil theory on why they handle it that way. See, the thing is the following. By not pushing us towards collecting certain moons, Nintendo opens up new possibilities to design moons. If we aren't meant to collect everything, that becomes much easier for them to include much weirder and stranger stuff into the game. There is this weird moon in the deeper woods that requires us to capture
I'm just watching videos of them streaming.
Rich money bag and to spit out all of its riches towards a kind of random flower. For several minutes. That moon would be offensively bad in a game like Mario Sunshine. Imagine for a second that Sunshine expected us at one point to mount our friend and dinosaur Yoshi, to ride him to a random spot a minute away, and then to vomit delicious fruit juice for several minutes until a shine finally appears. That would be a catastrophe, wouldn't it? Actually, now that I come to think about it, they actually have a shine like that in the game, and it is a catastrophe, yet Odyssey is able to get away with it, simply because Odyssey does not expect anyone to actually complete all the moons. The moon is more of a small joke or a little super weird secret that the developers left in the game, but not a substantial part of the game itself. Many of the 880 moons in Odyssey are like this. Some people may really like the walk the line challenges, some may hate it. Some players might love doing all the Koopa races, some may not enjoy it. Someone somewhere may enjoy collecting all the seeds and bringing them to the corresponding pots for whatever reason. I hate it. The same is true with the sheep moons or the hidden moon art moons, some of the challenge moons, and so on. By deciding that not every player is expected to collect every moon, by not pushing us towards collecting all the moons, Nintendo allows themselves to include weirder things into the game that maybe not everyone enjoys, but that some people may greatly appreciate. Just as an example, I really enjoy doing all the Koopa races across the kingdoms, but I'd rather do a full playthrough of Sticker Star before I do all the seed moons. But I'm sure there is someone out there that prefers to do the seeds or the races. This person is, in my subjective opinion, objectively wrong, but she's probably out there. Not all the content in the game is for everyone, but all the content is for someone, if that makes sense. If a person were to sit down with the honorable goal to binge through Odyssey until they picked up each and every moon, this lovely person is probably about to have a horrible time, because the game isn't meant to be played like that. It's meant to be played in a way where we choose which content we find enjoyable for ourselves. And as I see it, that's the reason why Nintendo doesn't push anyone to do any content they do not enjoy in Odyssey. It's not even necessary to complete all of the main story bits in each kingdom to see the credits. Like, if we wanted to, we can just say, screw the Wooded Kingdom, I don't give a toad about flower theft, let Torque Drift vacuum flowers in that silly tower for eternity, and let's head on with the main story. All the game asks of us is to collect a certain amount of moons in Wooded, but if we do that by playing the main story, or if we do it by just exploring, is completely up to us. The motivation to grab a moon should be because we, as a player, want to and enjoy grabbing the moon simply because it is fun to do so. If something in the game isn't fun for us, so be it. Someone else might find it enjoyable, but the game doesn't encourage us to do anything we do not intrinsically find fun to do in any way. It's what I like to call the no mushroom or no stick principle. They don't hang a mushroom on a stick in front of our faces, saying that if we only collect enough moons, we're finally able to reach the delicious and yum mushroom that tangles right in front of our face all the time. They do the opposite. They simply say, hey, here's our game. There is no mushroom or no stick to be found here. The game is meant to be enjoyed for what it is, for as long as you enjoy it, and we're confident that this is enough. In my reading, that is the reason why the game stops to reward us for collecting moons after finding 500. On the one hand, it allows them to add stranger stuff to the game, while it prevents them from pushing.
That's why when I played through Mario Odyssey, I just hated trying to go for all the moons. It's because some of the moons just weren't really fun for me. So I probably shouldn't keep going for any moons unless I want to.
Anyone to interact with the game in a way they do not enjoy on a moment-to-moment basis. On the other hand, another way to think about this is that Nintendo tried to subtract all forms of player progression from Odyssey until only the most necessary progression systems were left in the game, finding a certain amount of moons in any kingdom. Everything else in Odyssey is optional, and which moons we find is our choice as well.
Oh, I love Breath of the Wild. I've been playing that game recently.
I always wondered what Breath of the Wild would look like if it were developed by a Western developer. Like, what does EA Breath of the Wild look like? How do shrines work in Breath of the Wild Bethesda Edition? And do our weapons break in Breath of the Wild Ubisoft version? And earlier this month, I actually found it out. Earlier this month, Ubisoft released the catastrophically named game, Immortals Phoenix Rising. And Phoenix Rising is basically Breath of the Wild Ubisoft Edition. The game takes place in ancient mythical Greek. There are dangerous, evil minions to fight against all over the map. There is a gigantic open world to explore, filled with small puzzles and other challenges. Phoenix, our protagonist, is able to climb almost every surface in the game, as well as the proud owner of a pair of magical wings that allow her to glide around. She's able to lift and carry heavy objects. There are dangerous shrines called vaults in the game that test Phoenix's platforming ability or her puzzle solving skills, and so on. The game definitely set out to iterate upon Breath of the Wild, and overall I'd say they succeeded in what they set out to do. I really enjoyed my time with the game. Exploring the world in Phoenix is a blast, but funnily enough, playing it didn't feel like playing Breath of the Wild to me, and I believe that this is, among other reasons, to a huge part because of the way Phoenix rewards exploration. There are tons and tons of different things that Phoenix Rising hands out as a reward for taking part in all the various activities sprinkled over its beautiful world. There are hidden shards that can be used to upgrade our lives, treasure chests that reward different colored shards that allow us to upgrade our gear. Beating one of the many dangerous vaults rewards us with a part of Zeus lightning, which we in turn can use to upgrade our stamina bar. There is a golden amber that allows us to permanently enhance our potions using a skill tree, and most importantly, there are those coins which we can use to teach Phoenix new and exciting abilities. Wherever we go in the world, we will find some of those resources that allow us to grow our character. It's the core gameplay loop of Phoenix. Explore the world, find some resources for one of the several upgrade systems, return to the hub, level something up, explore the world, find upgrade materials, and so on. You see where this is heading? All those systems are mushrooms on a stick. We play the game so that our character gets stronger, so that we can play the game so that our character gets stronger, and so on. There's always a new upgrade tangling in front of our faces, giving us an extrinsic or arbitrary motivation to interact with the content of the game. We're not only motivated to fight enemies because we enjoy the simple act of doing so, but we're also motivated because we're really close to level up. We solve puzzles not only because the puzzles are enjoyable for themselves, but because we're really close to significant weapon upgrade. We don't only explore the different places of the world because they're a joy to explore, but also because we're only 2 shards away from a health upgrade. That's not a bad thing, by the way. Pretty much every AAA game nowadays has systems like that in place. The honorable folk living in marketing departments of AAA publishers like to call such systems RPG systems, but I think progression systems is the better term here. And that's really fine. I really enjoyed Phoenix Rising, I really enjoyed God of War, or Horizon Zero Dawn, or every other major third-person action-adventure game that features tons of tacked-on progression systems. Incrementally, leveling up a character just feels really great and rewarding, and keeps people playing. The only problem I have with excessive progression systems is that they can be abused to keep people playing a game, which they stopped to find enjoyable to play on a moment-to-moment basis a long time ago, but that's a discussion for another day. What? Pokemon Go has nothing to do with that. The point that I'm trying to make here isn't that progression systems are inherently bad or something, because they aren't. What I'm trying to establish here are two things. First, that most games have more progression systems than they really need to have, and second, that probably every game developer, other than Nintendo, would have filled a game like Breath of the Wild with tons and tons of different progression systems, like we can see in Phoenix Rising. Every game developer, but Nintendo, because in a certain way, Breath of the Wild is the antithesis to all of those different progression systems. Breath of the Wild is the no mushroom or no stick principle turned up to 11. Breath of the Wild's progression systems are turned down to the absolute minimum. There are only 3 forms of character progression systems in the game that I can think of, and they are all as minimalistically designed as possible. There are the Korok seeds, which are rewarded for mindfully exploring the world and offer useful additional weapon stashes. There are the shrine rewards that are the reward for almost all of the content in the game and upgrade health or stamina, and then there are the armor upgrades that are fun to get and sometimes open up new and interesting ways to play the game, but are as optional as armor upgrade systems get in games. That's it, not even the weapons that we find are a permanent upgrade, since they famously tend to break. Just let's take a look again at how many different incremental progression systems Phoenix Rising needs to keep players playing. Breath of the Wild's scope is much bigger than the one of Phoenix Rising is, yet they get away with only 3 minimal systems. It's the same idea as with Mario Odyssey's moons. It's this idea that we should feel motivated to play the game because we intrinsically enjoy our time with the game, not because there is a mushroom tangling in front of our face that we desperately want to eat. Breath of the Wild turned this intrinsic motivation idea up to its maximum volume. All areas in the game, but the Great Plateau, are optional. All shrines are optional. Not a single Korok seed is required to beat the game. Even the 4 main dungeons of the game are by no means required to see the credits. The whole idea of Breath of the Wild is to explore all the fantastic things that are hidden all over the place in Hyrule, just because it is enjoyable to...
The thing you got wrong though there is that in Breath of the Wild, all bosses in the game are required except for, I guess, Mazkashia and Master Koga. But, like the 4 Blights and Calamity Ganon and then Dark Beast Ganon are all required for clear anything, but you just have to go to Ganon's castle and go into the Sanctum
to explore them. And once we've seen as much as we wanted to see, we can end the game by simply going to Hyrule Castle. Some people might go for all shrines, some might not. Some might collect 600 Korok seeds. I only grabbed around 300 during my first playthrough. You get the idea. This idea of designing games around people intrinsically enjoying a game for what it is, instead of arbitrarily motivating them, is an idea that is present in almost every game that Nintendo releases nowadays. But nowhere is it stronger than in Breath of the Wild. It is what makes Breath of the Wild such an exceptional game, in my opinion. It's also a big part of what makes Super Mario Odyssey such an interesting game. It's part of Nintendo's current design philosophy, and is present in almost every game they put out.
Put that in every game.
But this focus on intrinsic motivation also has a toxic side, an evil side, an infectious side that corrupted many of Nintendo's beloved franchises. A dangerous side. There's this thing that video games often do that probably every single one of you wonderful ladies and gentlemen watching is familiar with, but that I don't really have a name for. You know, the classic Metroid thing? There's an obstacle that our hero of choice can only bypass by learning a new ability, or there is a cool optional item hidden somewhere in plain sight, but the only way to obtain it is by obtaining a new skill first. The best example for what I'm waffling about might happen at the start of the original Metroid on the NES. In this game, the very first thing that our brave hero, called Metroid, has to do is to run to his left and to learn the ball transformation ability, because further to the right is an obstacle that he can only bypass if he learned about ballification previously. We're going to call something like that Metroid Ability Growth Advancements, or MAGA for short. And we're going to call it Metroid-like ability growth. So Metroid-like ability growth is in tons of Nintendo games during the N64 and the game that he can only bypass if he learned about qualification previously. We're going to call something like that Metroid ability growth advancements, or qualification previously. We're going to call something like that Metroid ability growth advancements, or MAGA for short. And we're going to call it Metroid-like ability growth. So Metroid-like ability growth is in tons of Nintendo games during the N64 and the GameCube days. It is present in every Zelda game, since those are obviously built around Link finding new and powerful weapons during his adventure. The Pokemon games feature the HMs that add new abilities like surfing or moving rocks to our ability set over the course of the game. The original Luigi's Mansion has Luigi find 3 different element medals that act as upgrades to his vacuum cleaner and allow him to solve previously unsolvable puzzles. Metroid-like ability growth happens in the Metroid Prime trilogy. Obviously, it is a huge part of Donkey Kong 64 and the incredibly underrated game that Wario Land 3 is. Heck, there's even Metroid-like ability growth in Mario 64. The 3 different caps in Mario 64 are unusable at first and have to be unlocked separately before we are able to use their unique abilities. The same is true for the water nozzles and Yoshi in Sunshine. This concept that we learn new abilities over the course of the game just was present in tons of beloved Nintendo franchises. So I know what at least one of you is currently thinking. Yeah, Steve, you're right, of course that is everywhere. It's the most video gamey thingy ever. Tons of games, old and new, have systems like that. It's present in Banjo-Kazooie and in Sonic Adventures 2, the same way it is in 2018's God of War game. Learning new abilities that allow us to overcome previously unsolvable problems has always been part of video games, and it probably always will be part of video games. And you know, I tend to agree with you here, it's just Nintendo hasn't really released a game like that in almost a decade. The Zelda series moved away from this concept in Breath of the Wild. All abilities that Link has at the end of the game are the abilities he has at the end of the tutorial. They stopped making Metroid games. The Luigi's Mansion series dropped the concept, so did the Mario series. Don't get me wrong, by the way, I don't think that the Mario series should have stuff like that. It's just an observation. There are only 3 exceptions that I can think of out of all the games released for the 3DS, the Wii U and the Switch by Nintendo. And that's first Pikmin 3, but that one was released in 2013 and we have no idea if they plan on ever releasing a new one. It's 2013's A Link Between Worlds, and that game is remarkable in that it actually tries to shake up the old formula where Link gains 1 new ability per dungeon and instead makes most of the abilities available at once, and Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. Probably. Truth be told, I still haven't gotten around to beat Paper Jam, but I assume that Mario and Luigi still learn new abilities and get upgrades in this game, the same way they did in the older titles. And that's it. That's the only 3 exceptions that I can think about. So despite my honest and best efforts, I did not manage to replay every single game that Nintendo published over the last decade for this video, so there are probably 1 or 2 games that I missed, but it doesn't really matter for the point that I'm trying to make. The point here is that around 2000 Metroidvania-like video
No, I didn't mean to.
foil heads really matter for the point that I'm trying to make. The point here is that around 2000 Metroidvania-like progression was present in almost every Nintendo game, but nowadays it's a rarity. They removed it from almost all of their franchises, and I believe that this is not by accident. I believe that this is by design, and I believe that the reason Nintendo hasn't really used Metroid-like ability growth in over a decade is linked to why Mario Odyssey has 380 moons more than the game pushes us to collect, and to the fact that everything in Breath of the Wild is optional content but the final boss. But most importantly, all of this is linked to the baffling design decisions they made with the Paper Mario series on the 3DS and the Wii U. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the point of the video, where it is finally time to put on our tinfoil hats and to go into full conspiracy theory mode.
That's tinfoil hat.
It is time to take a look at all the different evidence pieces we established over the course of this video and to try to piece them together. It's time to come back to our mystery from the beginning of the video. It is time to crack our case. Not a single Nintendo console, up until today, features a system-wide achievement system. You know, those achievements that pop up in Steam when we manage to beat the first boss of a game, or on the PlayStation 4 if we, I don't know, kill a 100th enemy or whatever. So to be honest, I never thought too much about that. Nintendo isn't exactly famous for having all the state-of-the-art features when they launch their consoles, and I always thought the fact that they have no achievements is simply because, well, because they're sometimes a bit, behind the current innovation curve? That is, I used to think that, until very recently actually, where I stumbled over a really interesting quote that the Nintendo of America head of marketing, Bill Trinan, made back in 2011 while watching one of Mark Brown's lovely Game Maker Toolkit videos. In case someone is not familiar with Mark's videos, I highly recommend checking them out. So Kotaku basically asked Trinan why the 3DS won't have a system-wide achievement system, and his answer was the following. Basically, the way the games are designed is they're designed for you to explore the game yourself and have this sense of discovery. In my mind, that really encourages the sense of exploration, rather than the sense of, if I do that, I'm going to get some sort of artificial point or score that's going to make me feel better that I got this. And that for me is, I think, more compelling. Alrighty, right. So Nintendo actually knows about system-wide achievement systems. They just don't want to have them in their games because they feel that they are arbitrary. Instead of the game being rewarding to play in and of itself, they reward us arbitrarily for playing the game. Bryce Holiday, the game director of Luigi's Mansion 3, said something similar when asked about why Luigi's Mansion 3 doesn't feature upgrades to Kotaku in 2020. Upgrades and skill trees aren't very Luigi. He's a reluctant hero who already has the skills and bravery needed to tackle any problem. Players are helping Luigi overcome his nervousness to expose his true talents. Cleaning, destroying and collecting are engaging Zen experiences that everyone is familiar with since childhood. It is compelling even if there is no other reason than the act itself. It's once again the exact same idea of a game being intrinsically rewarding to play instead of featuring arbitrary rewards to keep us playing. Even though I strongly disagree with the statement that cleaning is an engaging Zen-like activity. This idea was present in Nintendo in 2011 when the 3DS launched, and this idea is still present today. This idea, I believe, is one of the absolute core design principles with which Nintendo tackles every game they develop. It is this idea that led to them designing Mario Odyssey with hundreds of moons more than the game rewards you to collect. It's this idea that led to them drop everything that previously defined the gameplay of the Zelda series, like, linearity, or that Link permanently finds new items, and led to them design a gigantic open sandbox. It's this design philosophy why Nintendo almost never uses traditional progression systems, like level ups, while the rest of the industry plasters their games with them. It's this idea why their games suddenly started to cut all forms of Metroid-like ability growth. This design philosophy might even be part of the reason why we haven't seen a new Metroid game in ages. And honestly, I respect that they're doing that. Actually, I adore it. Video games are starting to be old enough of a discipline that we have something like certain principles of game design. Developers simply have figured out what to do to make a gunshot feel impactful, or how to lead a player through environments using light and colors, or how to keep players engaged by permanently having a mushroom on a stick tangled in front of their faces. But if every team uses the same toolkit to solve all the same problems that game devs tend to face, then they end up all finding the exact same solutions, which is the reason why it feels as if every second game features the exact same skill tree. One way to not always fall back to the exact same solutions when encountering problems is to arbitrarily restrict oneself. Restriction breeds creativity, and I believe Nintendo willfully restricts themselves to not use any forms of arbitrary reward systems in all of their games in order to, find more creative and more pure solutions for the problems they encounter when designing their games. More often than not, this approach led to amazing titles. They really pushed the industry forward with some of their more recent games, and most importantly, millions of people are happily enjoying many of the experiences they crafted. However, and this is where Paper Mario comes back into the picture. Sometimes this idea just goes so fundamentally against what a game tries to be that it simply does not work. At the beginning of the video, we took a lot of time to establish all the features that were present in the first two Paper Mario games but have vanished since. If we take a closer look at all the things they refused to reintroduce, we can see that all of those systems, in one way or another, arbitrarily reward us for playing the game. We can't have a turn-based combat system where Mario levels up over the course of the game, because leveling up would be an arbitrary form of progress. So we get either a stupid card combat without progression, or time Sudoku puzzles. We can't have Mario befriend exciting partners that add new abilities which allow us to overcome previously impossible to overcome obstacles, because that would be one of those Metroid-like ability progress systems that we try to avoid. We can't have badges hidden everywhere in the world anymore, because those would provide provide an arbitrary reward for exploring the game, instead of just exploring the game as a mean to its own end. Instead, we get hundreds of fun to find but ultimately meaningless toads and weapon items that break after a while. We can't have Mario learn new cool abilities, like folding anymore, because that would mean that the options to interact with the game change over its course and our design wouldn't be pure anymore. We either give Mario all the abilities we want him to have at the beginning, or we can't have it at all. It's a perfectly valid decision to decide to cut out all the Metroidvania elements, all the mushrooms on a stick, and all the progression reward systems when developing a game. It breeds creativity, it can lead to incredible games like Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey, but if they put that into every franchise, every series and every game, then they forbid things to naturally grow into the direction they try to grow. I really enjoyed Origami King, but I can't stop to wonder what the same team would have been able to do considering their talent if they were allowed to make a classic Paper Mario game. So just to be completely clear here, this is basically a conspiracy theory. I have nothing to back this up, other than a hat made out of tin and foil, a couple of observations, and a bunch of cats that agree with me. Yeah, I know that you disagree, but the other cats are on my side, okay? But the only way I can make sense of all the things that happened to the Paper Mario series is that Nintendo forcefully tried to remove all RPG and progression systems from the game until a collectible card game combat system without partners was all that was left. Nintendo appears in a certain way to be addicted to only developing games around an idea of intrinsic enjoyment. And as it is so often in life, that is not only Nintendo's biggest strength, but also their biggest weakness. This idea allowed them to push some of their franchises into really fascinating new directions. But I truly believe that it is time to drop this idea for a couple of other franchises, because those franchises simply need a bunch of arbitrary reward systems to work. So, I hope you enjoyed this little video, getting the different
Okay, well, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next stream. Later.